Hi everyone, it's Mr. Vallejo. Welcome to biology class. Today we are going to take a look at some of the worm phyla. This is a continuing study of invertebrate zoology. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's go ahead. All right, we're going to take a look at the Platyhelminthes and the nematodes specifically today. We call these the lower worm phyla. There are also the annelids, and we'll take a look at the annelids in a different talk, along with the mollusca. All righty, so let me remind you to take Cornell notes. And I encourage you to use the electronic template to record your information. All right, first a review of bilateral symmetry. This is the beginning of bilateral symmetry as we go and study biology from an organismal viewpoint. That is by taking a look at the most simple organisms and going up from there. We've already covered the sponges. We took a look at the Cnidaria, which are the jellies, and the coral, and the sea anemone. We are now on the worms, and so we're now taking a look at the lower worms, the flatworms, and the roundworms, which both exhibit bilateral symmetry. Now remember, bilateral symmetry, we learned before, is symmetry about a plane. So if you have bilateral symmetry, then along this center plane, you have symmetry. I have two ears, I have two eyes, I have two nostrils, I have two arms, I have two hands. So that's symmetrical down the middle plane. That's bilateral symmetry. Bi, like a bicycle, means two. Lateral means off to the sides, two sides. For organisms that are bilateral, a cheat sheet is most bilaterally symmetrical organisms have a head. So if you can find a head, it's going to be bilateral. Okay, most animals that are more complex than cnidarians, more complex than the jellies, have bilateral symmetry. The exception is going to be the sea urchins and the sea stars in the phylum Echinodermata. We'll see that a little bit later. All righty, and so bilaterally symmetrical animals. We also see here at the end of this statement, mesoderm forms in the embryos of organisms that have bilateral symmetry, and we're going to see that the worms have mesoderm, but we have not yet seen those in the sponges or the cnidarians. Before we get started, we need to be familiar with these terms for dissection. Now they're different if you walk on four legs or you walk on two legs. The dorsal is your back side, okay? You have the ventral side, which is your belly side. Anterior is the head region, and posterior is the tail. Pretty straightforward in the dog, but in the person, because we're standing up, it's a little bit more complicated. But the dorsal is the back, the ventral is the belly, anterior is the head, posterior is the tail. So when we do dissections, you'll need to know those terms. Now, why is it advantageous to be bilaterally symmetrical? It is advantageous because of cephalization. Cephalization is the concentration of the organs in the anterior region or the head. You look at the Gary Larson funny, you have, says here, unknown to most historians, William Tell had an older and less fortunate son named Warren. Warren Tell got a big head. Cephalization, okay. Now, worms seem to be insignificant, but they actually are not, and they are divided up into three major groups. And those major groups, well, why even three major groups? Well, these groups are too varied in structure to be in one group. So we have the flatworms, we have the roundworms, and then we have the segmented worms like an earthworm. Okay, or in this case, this is a clamworm. Okay, so three different groups of worms. Let's take a look at the first group. The first one is phylum Platyhelminthes. Helminth means worm, plat means flat. So when you put those two pieces together, you get Platyhelminthes. These are the flatworms, like the tapeworms you see in this picture right here. Some general biology about flatworms. They are the most simple group to show that specialization of cephalization, where you have a concentration of organs in the head. Makes sense, because if you're going forward, then your eyes are forward, your ears, your nose, your sense organs are located forward. Flatworms also have a gut, and the gut is the only internal cavity. Okay, the gut is where the tube that the food moves through in an organism. We're going to see the internal cavity is important at the end of this talk. Internal cavity that has organs in it. It's called the coelom. And these are the lowest animals in the zoological ladder to show bilateral symmetry. Okay. All right, a few more comments about flatworms. They're found in both freshwater and salt waters. Most are very small, but some can be even 60 feet long. In the ocean, that is not an uncommon thing. Flatworms move by contracting muscles, and they may also have hair-like structures called cilia that move back and forth and push them through the water column. They may have a very simple nervous system and a simple digestive system. These are flatworms. Flatworms can also reproduce both asexually or sexually. And so asexually, they can reproduce because they have a sperm and an egg. Worms are hermaphroditic. That is also the term. Another term is monoecious, we saw earlier. So worms are monoecious or hermaphroditic, and that means they have both male and female sex cells. And then they also can reproduce asexually by regeneration of parts that are lost, and those parts that are lost can grow into new organisms themselves. So these are the flatworms. Now, there are many different classes of flatworms. The major classes are the planaria and the flukes and the tapeworms. Now, the flukes and the tapeworms are important because they are known. In fact, they are notorious for causing serious diseases in humans. The Chinese liver fluke is a trematode, and then tapeworms cause havoc in the digestive system of people all throughout the world. Not just people, but tapeworms can be found in pigs, in livestock in general. So tapeworms. Now the planaria are free living, and they have a remarkable ability to regenerate. I have regenerated planaria many times. You can take a razor blade and cut this worm down the middle, and then you can have you can have a worm with two heads. Or you can cut this into pieces, like 5 pieces, and each piece will grow into a smaller yet separate worm. So those are the planaria. you take a look at this drawing, there's only one opening to the digestive system, and it's right here at the end of this muscular pharynx. It's like a little hose that has a mouth at the end. Well, that is not advantageous because the food goes in and then the waste products go out the same opening. However, you will see in this picture the intestines, which are blue, are not just straight tubes, but they end in these little pockets that have all kinds of nooks and crannies that greatly increases the surface area for the food to be absorbed. So that happens in the intestines. And planaria are quite simple. They have a sensory lobe, which is like an ear. They have an eye, it says here, but you'll see some diagrams that say eye spot. And so they can, with that eye spot, they can sense the difference between light and dark, and they will move away from the light. Flukes are endoparasitic. That means they're parasites on the inside. And these are very dangerous. Here's schistosomiasis. Those numbers always amaze me. 200 million people in the world have schistosomiasis. Here's another one. Here's a liver fluke. This is a side view of it. I've seen liver flukes about this big. And these are a great problem in Asia, particularly. There's one called the Chinese liver fluke that lives in the liver, obviously, but goes to the environment and then reproduces outside of the body, but then it'll go and find a snail to live in. And then when fish eat that snail, and it goes from the snail to the fish, and then when people eat the fish, that is the cycle. So that's how you get a liver fluke. Swimmer's itch could be a trematode larvae looking for a host. If you ever have swimmer's itch, maybe get out of that water. Here's some close-up pictures of tapeworms. Here's a term, a vocabulary term, is gravid. Tapeworms they're proglottids near the end because the ends are older, the sections are older. Those may be gravid or full of eggs, and when those older sections drop off or break off, then the eggs are released into the feces, and when the vertebrate animal goes to the bathroom, then those eggs are released into the environment, and that is how tapeworms are spread. And again, older proglottids are gravid, and you can see a picture of that over here. Here you see some little hooks on this right here. So this is Taenia solium, which has a scolex, which is, you have the head, and then the scolex or the neck, and then here the proglottids, and this one is going to be very far down on this tapeworm. Okay, you can watch some videos of tapeworms. There's some addresses of some. You could just go to YouTube and type in tapeworm if you're interested in that sort of thing. They are unusual to watch. Specifically in the marine environment, not one of the major classes of worms, but important to marine biologists. It's the ribbon worm. There's just over 1,000 species of ribbon worms. The largest free living worm, 36 feet. Most of them are smaller, but 36 feet. Can you imagine that? That is an incredible length for one organism. Looks like a flatworm, but has a much more advanced digestive system, and the first to have a circulatory system. Okay, so that's the Nematoda, and those are the ribbon worms. You don't usually see these swimming along, but they are found in the sand and specifically in the intertidal regions. So in tide pools, certain parts of the world, you may see Nemertea. They also have a projection called a proboscis, which is sharp and sticky when it comes out. Um, these are even more interesting videos than some of the ones that were on the previous slide. So you can see that, and they're interesting. Okay. Oh, there's a good picture. There's one in someone's hand, so I'll give you an idea of how large that one is. That's not a big one, but you can see that proboscis coming out. So it's kind of yucky, huh? All right. The second major group is the Nematoda, and the Nematoda are the roundworms. You can see on the right, there's a roundworm called Ascaris, and you can see that on the bottom picture is of the hook, and these are called the hookworms. But before I get in that, these worms are ubiquitous. That means they're found just about everywhere. Most numerous in both number and species of all the worms, 10,000 different species of these worms. They say that anywhere in the United States, if you took a shovel full of dirt, then that shovelful of dirt would have about 250,000 microscopic worms in there. And these are nematodes. So very small, parasitic. Some people say that you shouldn't walk around barefooted in the soil because you could pick up a nematode this way. Nematodes are important also because they show sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism means you can see the difference, you can tell the difference between the male and the female. The larger one on the left of the penny is the female, the smaller one is the male. And you can see another way to tell the difference is the hook there, and then the lack of hook in the male, the hook in the female right there. These are sexually dimorphic worms, so you can tell the difference between a male and a female. As far as sexual reproduction goes, some of these are monoecious. Most are male or female, but some species have both male and female parts and have the ability to make sperm and egg. Now, in the ocean, the marine nematodes live in the intertidal zone, in tide pools, rocky shores. They burrow in the sand and the mud. They also live in aquarium tank gravel. So once you get a tank that's established, you can take a drop of water from the aquarium tank, and you're likely to see nematodes there. Nematodes feed on dead objects, dead organic material. We call that detritus. And you can actually see them, if they're out in the water, they can actually maneuver in the water a little bit. They're plankton in the sense that they have to float around mostly, but if it was very still water, you could see that they have the ability to move a little bit from here to there. So what they do is they whip their bodies back and forth to move around to swim. All right, so here is a hookworm in a dog as a endoparasite found inside the intestines of dogs and cats. Again, very small, in fact, microscopic. And these are bloodsuckers. And an interesting fact here, 300 adult worms can drain 10% of the pet's blood per day. And remember, these are microscopic. The adult ones are larger, obviously, but even half an inch is only this big. So these are really small worms. But these hookworms, this is why you need to give a dewormer to your puppy when you first bring your puppy home, and then they can get rid of all these hookworms through the waste products. Oh, here's an interesting picture of the scarus. The scarus is found in livestock, like in pigs, but also in humans and in parts of the world that don't have very good sanitation, and in poorer parts of the world. As I wrote here, unsanitary areas without modern plumbing. Look at the numbers though. 1 in 6 people worldwide are affected. This young man, unfortunately, is infected with the ascaris, which is the roundworm. Usually, the problems come when they cause obstruction of your intestines. Um, so yeah, this is a pretty bad infection there. And then for parasites, we have another worm called trichina or trichinella. And it used to be this was a big problem in pork. And people would say, I don't eat pork because you could get trichinosis. Well, trichinosis is when you get the cyst of these worms uh, in your muscles, and it feels like arthritis. The muscles are sore, especially at the joints. It's hard to move, painful to move. But it has been found that this is no longer true for pork in the United States. Still, people tend to shy away from pork because of the problem with trichinosis. Only 25 cases per year in the United States. Usually this is from game animals like deer or elk. They're found in other critters like raccoons and squirrels and things like that. But uh, of, uh, of all the cases in the United States, there's only been quite a few usually. And on any given year, less than 100 cases. That doesn't seem like very much, unless you're the one who has it, right? Okay, so those are some comments about some of the lower worm phyla. You should especially know about the Platyhelminthes and which are the flatworms, and then the roundworms, which are the Nematoda. All right, thanks for coming to biology class today. I'm Mr. Vallejo. We'll see you later.